I'm sure a lot of you are looking at the title thinking, oh, this guy's just milking the Dream SMP for views.
Don't worry, Purple, because that's probably what a lot of people think of me at this point. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, slumping your viewers, you've read the title, you've seen the words Dream SMP, you know it's to do with that, but more importantly, it's to do with a former Dream SMP member, Purple. Now, Purple recently released a video titled The Consequences of the Dream SMP, where he went over that feeling after the Dream SMP where his views declined and his subscribers wasn't growing as quickly. In a similar vein to how we recently covered the Schlatt video where he spoke about not seeing a 1 out of 10 all the time for his YouTube and how that made him feel and the focus and obsession around that. In today's video, I want to take a look at what Purple has to say about his YouTube analytics and just give my side of the conversation.
Which is so utterly insane to even think about, but as time went on, obviously, just like anything else, any other like big trend or big fad or whatever, it faded out. The Dream SMP went away, COVID ended, and Minecraft wasn't as big anymore. I mean, Minecraft's still always going to be, I feel like, a massive thing on YouTube and Twitch, at least for the near future. But yeah, I mean, that was done for. And as time went on, every day, every month, I would look at my stats and the number would be lower.
Personally, I do believe the biggest issue that came from the Dream SMP outside of the major controversies and dramas is the fact that there were so many younger content creators involved in the Dream SMP, and that when they blew up, they got kind of deluded into thinking this is something that they could be expecting consistently even after it all wrapped up. Eventually, when their numbers slowly start to decline and go down to a normal level, they were basically more obsessed with their numbers than maybe a normal content creator would. As we spoke about when we covered the Schlatt stuff, every single YouTuber is obsessed with their numbers, their analytics. If they've told you they're not, then they are lying to you. Everybody thinks about it, but I do genuinely think that because they got so successful so quickly at a younger age, that when their views did start to go down, they were more obsessed and it kind of impacted them a lot more. And we've seen TommyInnit openly talk about a similar thing as well when it came to numbers and analytics, and I think another factor with all of this as well is because they peaked to such an extent, it's kind of that feeling that you're never going to get to that peak ever again because it was such an outrageously large number that nothing you ever do will get the same success. Ultimately, the success they were seeing was insane, abnormal, and at such a young age, it kind of set them up for failure as their YouTube careers move forward.
Me seeing 15,000 viewers on a Bed Wars stream was great. And I remember one day, I was like, I'm going to stream Subnautica. I want to go variety. I want to stream a different game other than Minecraft. I don't want to box myself in. And I think I averaged around 10,000 viewers that first stream, maybe something like that. And I remember sitting to myself and thinking, you know what? As long as I just average 10,000 viewers on variety streams, I'm okay with that. You know, just 10,000 viewers. Like, do you know how insane that sounds? Just 10,000 viewers? But, you know, as time went on, you can check my stats. Pretty much every month, my average viewers would go down. Every month. 2021, 2022, 2023.
Of course, this is an entirely normal thing on YouTube and social media. You have your low points, you have your peaks, and ultimately your peaks won't last forever. When you're a big trending creator like that, you will get eventually replaced by a brand new trending creator who might even be more popular than you, and that can really impact how somebody's motivation works and how somebody looks at their views in their channel.
2024. And same for YouTube. I mean, throughout YouTube, you know, I quit my main channel. That's a whole other story. I quit it, came back, whatever. But, like, do you know how much that sucks? Like, being a content creator, like a full-time content creator as like a kid. I mean, like, I didn't go to college, you know, around the time I hit 1 million subscribers was like my senior year of high school. So I was like, you know, I'll take a gap year. And here I am still in my gap year, my 4th gap year or whatever.
Of course, here Purple has actually brought up the fact that he didn't finish his education. And not that this would be a big issue for somebody like Purple, who is such a successful YouTuber and is still getting success to this day and probably has enough money to sustain himself. But ultimately, if you are somebody that wants to pursue YouTube, do not quit your education, see that through, because YouTube is such an unstable thing. 1 month you could be doing really well, and the next month you could be doing awful, and the next month you could be doing amazing. It's not reliable, it's completely unstable, and you always want a backup option. And even if you do blow up massively, you get millions of views, millions of subscribers, whatever it may be, that's not something that could possibly last. It might not, and ultimately you have to be realistic with it, so having a backup option and being in school is still pretty important. Take a look at somebody like Morg, for example, who dropped out of school at the age of 14, 15 because he was doing incredibly well, and now look at his channel. Not that he's doing bad by any means, and he's definitely got enough money saved up, but ultimately he isn't doing nearly as well as he is now, and if he wants to go into anything else, he is pretty limited. Of course, his connections from being a bigger YouTuber are going to help, but ultimately that's not something that, you know, you are guaranteed.
But you know how much that sucks? Just every day, every month, no matter what you're doing, literally, you can't, like, I couldn't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. Like, Minecraft is less popular, and that's how it is, and that's okay. But It just sucks, man. It just really sucks. And I also want to, like, clarify that I'm not sitting here saying, A, you should sit here and pity me because my life is so hard. No, dude, I play video games for a living. Like, my life is great, and it's easy, for the most part. And two, I'm not, like, mad at these people for leaving. I'm not saying I'm, like, entitled to having fans or entitled to everyone staying. Like, I get it, bro. It's COVID. No one had anything to do. Minecraft was huge. People went and watched a Tommy lore stream. That's great. I understand that those people have other things to do now. I'm not saying I'm entitled to it. But in terms of the pure psychological numbers method of it, it sucked.
Now, I'm pretty aware that a lot of people, when taking a look at this, are going to say that this guy's pathetic, that he's coping about his decline in viewers, and that it's pretty sad that he's got online to complain about said decline in viewers. But I do think it's a pretty interesting thing to talk about when somebody who was at such a big degree at the height of something like the Dream SMP comes on and just talks about, you know, the feeling of that decline in viewership.
And, like, not only that, but as time goes on, all those people move on to other things. It's like, I have, yeah, sure, I have 1 million followers on Twitch, 1 million followers on Twitter. But then it's like, anytime you tweet, no one cares. Like, you know, I never tweeted this exactly. Let's say I would tweet, oh guys, no stream this weekend because I'm going to town. Like, no one cares. And just, I don't know, like, maybe that's all in my head. But it's like, that's the reason I never post anything. Because it's like, I just knew that no, like, such a small portion of people that follow me kept up with me at all or knew anything about me. Like, I feel like so many of those 1 million followers just follow me because I'm on the Dream SMP. Maybe they watch, like, 2 bedwars streams and 1 Dream SMP stream. That was it. Like, I don't know. And, like, again, I don't want to say I'm, like, not grateful for the fans. Like, I understand where I'm grateful, but, like, just from a pure psychological standpoint, it just sucks, man. Like, and like, knowing that you peaked at 17 is just such like a shitty feeling.
Okay, maybe this guy is just a little bit whiny. Of course, look, I do feel sympathy for this guy because I can imagine the difficulty of seeing how far you've fallen from when you were a younger person and you were getting 10 times the viewership, 10 times the popularity, whatever it may be, and how that changes your perspective on things, and you do kind of get obsessed with viewership and numbers. But ultimately, the ball is in your court, and when it comes to things like YouTube, there's always chances to revitalize your channel and bounce back. And I think that's something that Purple clearly wants, like in comparison to somebody like Schlapp, for example, who, when he spoke about his obsession with viewership, it was because that made him realize that he should focus more on in real life stuff and just enjoying the stuff he does. Where with Purple, I think it's clear that he wants to be more of a successful content creator again and try and bounce back. To do that, whilst I do think the transparency here is interesting and opens up an interesting conversation, especially about people who rise to such a big degree in something like the Dream SMP and who have since had a decline, ultimately when you want to bounce back and, you know, make content that does reach those bigger numbers, you need to stop focusing on the numbers and take a look at what people are interested in and what content you want to be making.
Fan money, but just like feeling of accomplishment, you know? I don't know. It's like I feel like I've learned so much more about YouTube. I like the amount of time and effort I put into my recent YouTube videos, literally 10 times the amount I put into past YouTube videos. Before, I would record Bed Wars for like an hour, get it edited in like 2 weeks and be done. But now I've spent like literally dozens and dozens of hours coding stuff, building a map, testing, whatever. And then I pay for B-roll, I pay for editing, I pay for a thumbnail. Like I pay way more and I spend way more time for less results. And in my opinion, it's like an objectively better video, but like, it just doesn't do the same.
Even outside of being a bigger content creator who then has a decline and their content improves but the viewership doesn't go up, this is a regular online thing that, you know, the shit content that you make will blow up and do amazing, and the content that you spend absolute weeks in, you put your blood, sweat and tears into, will completely fall off the edge of the platform. This is something that anybody who has made more than 2 YouTube videos has experienced, and ultimately, whilst yeah, it does suck, you've kind of just got to take it on the chin and keep chugging along and making content that you want to make, regardless of how it's performed. Also, this video he talks a bit about his finances, for example, and that if he wanted to, he could stop doing everything now and just kind of coast along, but that's not something that he particularly wants to ever do. He wants to keep making content and that sense of accomplishment. He then goes on to talk about as well a little bit about how, you know, it feels that people are less interactive on his other different social media platforms, and, you know, that's kind of just how YouTube is. Now, whilst his video talking about his decline in viewership at times does come off a bit whiny and cope-filled, ultimately I think his said transparency actually opens up a pretty interesting conversation, not only about the Dream SMP, but bigger content creators who are involved in a big trend, who have a decline in viewership and the feeling of that, and how that actually is for the person at the end of it. I think it's an interesting conversation to have, and something that I hope other people watching this video have felt interested by. But I would love to know your perspective from either an audience member side, or if you make content in any capacity, what's your thoughts on all this? Please feel free to comment down below, and whilst you're done there, you might as well subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future Slop Mule content. But I've been your host Samuel, you've been watching Slop Mule, and I will catch you in the next YouTube video. Goodbye.